Every city you burn, I'm gonna build one high.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is January 17th, YC127, and this is the Eve Universe Show! Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's it going, guys? Oh my gosh, hold on. My lighting is fucked up. Hold on. Forgot. Hey, there we go. Okay. Whew. Sorry, guys. Didn't get my coffee, didn't get my lighting set up, not really ready to go, but whatever, we got things to cover. I got my puppy in my lap. I don't know if you can even see. I've got her cone visible, but I'm not going to make her try to move. All right, guys, welcome. It is Friday, and today we have two major topics to cover. There is no real super active news going on outside of Eve Frontiers, which I don't really know what to say about that yet. Apparently there's ice and there's things caught in the ice and it can kill you and it's scary, and that isn't under NDA. It's actually on Twitter, but not really much to go dig into there. But what we do have is today I want to go over weapon systems in EVE Online and go over the various fleets I am using in EVE Galaxy Conquest. There's been a lot of requests for fleet guides. I've seen some fairly decent fleet guides, but I thought what might be a really interesting idea is, like, I don't have all of the dudes. As it turns out, I'm not like such a big content creator that I get to spend thousands of dollars on my EVE Galaxy Conquest account. If you want to help support it, then I guess go for it, message me. But barring that, I am pretty much a minnow at best with the rest of you. So I don't have all of the really fancy max start out crazy stuff to try out. I don't think I have a single Otro in all of my setups. But what I do want to do is show off what I have been doing with the setups that I have. So that'll be interesting. But first and foremost, how's it going, guys? Do you guys have any plans for the weekend? Let me know what's going on for the weekend. I, again, am missing my coffee in my otherwise amazing mug. But, all right. I have some infographics that are linked down below that might be useful. Let's see. Is there any news? I don't think there's any news. Let me double check. Let me just triple check. Sometimes they like to drop news right at the same time as I'm going live. Eve news. Up to 30% off skill training in the NES. Whatever. Cool, I guess. We did the monthly economic report already. That was a week ago. Yeah, there really isn't any major news. Let me double check Hobo Leaks. Nope, no patch today. Excuse me, no patch today. Let me check universe.eveonline.com. Yep, no news there. So it's been a quiet week in my hometown of Lake Wobegon. But we are going to talk about weapon systems. So let's go ahead and get started now. Welcome back, everyone, to my YouTube channel, Ashtarothi. We are covering EVE Online. As I said in the previous episode, EVE Online is now a 20-year-old game, so it is very complex and it has a lot of stuff to it that can be very intimidating for a new player. And so here in the year of 2025, or as we like to call it, YC127, I'm making a series of videos that go over all of the considerations or a lot of things that you might want to know to get into EVE Online and do better. Last time we talked about the fundamentals of fitting. We talked about power grid and CPU and rig calibration and slot layouts and how to pick a ship. And now we're going to start fitting it. And the very first thing that you want to consider when you're fitting a ship is how you're going to defend it. And a lot of that defense comes from weapon systems. There are roughly 4 different kinds of weapon systems in the game. There are turrets, there are missile launchers, there are drones, and then there are the exceptions. Technically speaking, I guess there's another one, which is smart bombs. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The exceptions are, by and large, single-use weapon systems that are on specialty ships, which we will be digging into. What you see here is actually one of those specialty ships. But to begin, I think that it's better to talk about turrets first and foremost. And as I showed last time, you can actually go into the agency here to the help section, and there are plenty of amazing videos about the combat mechanics, including a lot of the stuff that we're going to be covering here. So we're going to look at some of these as we go. But to jump into it, we're going to open up our fitting browser, go to hardware and simulate, and look at our high slots, because all weapon systems that are fit to a ship go into their high slots. The only thing that doesn't go into high slots would be drones. So we're going to look into this. Let's pick a random ship with plenty of options, like the Stabber, whatever. So the Stabber is a cruiser, which, as we learned last time, is a medium-sized ship, which means it used medium-sized weapons. Jumping back over to hardware, we can see under high slots, we have a lot of different options in high slots, but we have turrets and launchers, which is where all of the weapon systems come from. So amongst turrets, there are three primary and 1 secondary option. There are energy turrets, hybrid turrets, and projectile turrets, along with the entropic disintegrators. So energy turrets are used by the Amar. Projectile turrets are used by the Mimitar. Uh-oh, hold on. Oh, there's the puppy. Hi. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. I know. She does not like the cone of shame. All right. Energy turrets and projectile turrets are effectively opposites of each other, right? Energy turrets have a far optimal range and a short fall off, where projectiles have a short optimal with a long fall off in general. Ashtarothi, what is optimal and fall off? Well, optimal and fall off are critical to the calculations of turrets. The way it works is that every single time a turret is fired, it rolls a percentage chance, right? It rolls a percentile, a 1 out of every 100, right? And it takes that number, and if it hits, it adds that number to 50, and that's how much percent of damage of the weapon system it actually does. So if we take this weapon system and we give it a basic crystal, like a standard crystal, we can see here that this weapon shoots for, where is it? 22 EM damage and 13 thermal damage for a total of 35 damage total. Now, it is actually, like, when it fires, it's not necessarily going to do 35 damage exactly. It's going to do somewhere between 50% of that and 150% of that, depending on whether or not it rolls somewhere between 2 and 100 in the chart, right? If it rolls a 100, then it does 150% of the damage. So that would be roughly 47 or so, or maybe 52, right? Yeah, 52 or so damage, right? This is, of course, before resists, which are part of tanking, which we will be going into next time. It's true, they are conceptual opposites as well through electronic or EM emissions versus traditional ballistic projectiles. But in this case, I like to think of the Amar and the Mimitar weapon systems as being roughly opposites of each other, with the hybrid weapons being somewhere in between. So the key here, though, is I said if it hits, right? And hitting with a turret is controlled by two factors, which are the distance to the target versus your optimal range, and your tracking versus the angular velocity of the ship that is being hit. So to start with, we're going to look at this video about optimal range. We are going to watch this video about optimal range, right? Really? No? We're just not going to work today? I love it. I love doing things live. I love doing things live. What do you want? What do you want, puppy? What are you doing? Everything's going wrong. Everything's going wrong. All right. Well, the key here is that Sag, yeah. So when something is within your optimal range, that basically, okay, hold on. Hi. Oh my God, I don't know if this is gonna work out today, guys. I don't know how well this is gonna work. Editing this is gonna be a nightmare. Should we just run around and kill things on Eve or call it? Man, today's been a day. Videos are here as well. Yeah, that's true. But why is the video not working? That's so annoying. Oh! Hey! I got them working now. Alright, hold on. Whatever. Alright, so first we're going to start with this video about optimal range. The idea being is that with all things being the same, in other words, like what I like to say is the optimal range is the maximum range in which you can hit the broadside of a barn 100% of the time. As long as size and speed of the moving object is no consideration, then at your optimal range, you have a 100% chance to hit it. Below anything below your optimal range, you should also have a 100% chance to hit it. Again, if it's not moving and if it's not small. It moving and it's small can also influence this. However, as it goes past your optimal range, you will drop off in percentage chance up until your fall off. Your fall off represents, your first fall off represents 50% chance to hit the broadside of a barn. And then past your first fall off to your second fall off is basically when it cuts down to roughly 0 chance to hit. Now, this plus tracking is really important because of the way that damage is calculated in this game. Unlike a lot of different games where you would think about damage and to hit being two different things, right? Like in Dungeons and Dragons, you would roll your percentile, or you'd roll your d20 to see if you hit, and then you roll your die to see what damage you do. In this case, your roll to hit and your roll to do damage is the same roll, right? So what does this mean? Well, if you do a 100% chance to hit, then no matter what you roll, you hit. If it goes past that 100% chance to hit, like right here at 69%, nice, at 69% chance to hit, that extra 31% chance to miss actually is layered on top of the hit calculation. So if you roll a 69 to hit, well, you have a 69% chance to hit. So a 69 will hit, and you will do 119% of the total of the registered damage for that weapon system. But if you rolled a 70 to hit, A 70 is above the 69% chance to hit, and therefore that will not hit, it will miss. Which means if you have a 69% chance to hit, you will never do more than 119% of your damage, with one caveat. That caveat is no matter what your chance to hit, as long as you have more than 1% chance to hit, then you have the chance to crit. Because if you roll a 1, I said earlier if you roll a 2, that's the lowest, but if you roll a 1, that is considered a critical hit, which is called a wrecking shot. And a wrecking shot does 300% damage, not 200% damage, because remember, the maximum amount of damage that a turret can do is 150%. So double of its maximum damage is actually 300% of the registered damage. So for instance, with that 35 damage, it would be 60, 90, 105 damage in order to, out the gate for a wrecking shot, right? Now, optimal range, how far the thing away is only 1/2 of the calculation for your chance to miss, with the other being tracking. Tracking represents how fast the ship is going across your horizon versus your ship's weapon system's ability to rotate its turrets. So as you can see, if the target is going too fast, then your turret's tracking will fail to keep up. So a ship that is going faster than your tracking speed will be extremely difficult to hit. However, remember, this is the speed of it going across your horizon. So the further the target is away, the slower relative to your horizon it goes. So a ship that's traveling very fast close to you will be hard to track, but a ship that's going the same speed further away will actually be easier to track than when it's close, right? As is demonstrating here. So both the optimal range versus the target's range, and your tracking speed versus its angular velocity. Just yesterday, I designed an equation for a response team in a sector of pure blind. Oh yeah, so the tracking speed and the max and the optimal range will go into the calculation of how likely you are to miss, and then that miss percentage covers up the top damage of your chart, right? So, you're not going to get a smashing blow or whatever it is and do like 150% damage if you have a chance to miss. And these two things are combined. Actually, if we go to, I hadn't thought about doing this, but hold on one second. We can actually go to Eve Uni website. Eve University's website on turret mechanics. Takes forever to load. Is there something wrong with my internet today? My connection to you guys are good, right? Yeah, I don't see any drop frame. Whoa. Is today just one of those days, guys? Is today one of those days that everything you assume, like, or you can't rely on anything? This is one of those days, isn't it? Well, suffice it to say, there is a formula that you can usually find on Eve Uni. Is this real? Come on. This video is awful. I think, you know what, guys? seriously, I think I'm just going to have to redo this video again next week when things are working. Almost exactly what happened to me. Attacked by 3 slashers and a scorpion while ratting with my friend. They had left me behind and the first slasher got in. He's coming too fast. My internet has been shit. Yeah, I don't... Guys, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I tried. Y'all were here. Y'all were witnesses. Large laser could target him? Well, so lasers are pretty good at tracking overall. Turret's Disaster Edition video. Yeah, no kidding, man. Whatever. Look. I'm just gonna... I don't know what to do, man. I'm just gonna go... I don't know what to do, man. This is so throwing me off. Ugh. Alright, hold on. Let's just go over Eve Galaxy Conquest stuff, I guess, right? Once I start moving with them, I was like, to take 2. Well, yeah, so the thing is that when you're flying around... It's okay, keep going, we were listening. Well, yeah, but I was going to... I need to edit this and turn it into like an edited tutorial video. That's the problem with having all these things, you know, disrupting what I was doing. But you can see here that like if you have the tactical overlay on, you can see where your trajectory is, and if there was somebody else out there, like even if you select something like this, no. Is that not going to work? I thought it still showed me like its angle. No, I guess not, because it's not moving. Sweet.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
The point is that I will demonstrate this just because of what you're talking about, and then we'll try the turret thing again another time. Golly gee willikers, what a chaos. Okay, so a big piece of what you're talking about is there's a thing called the spiral tackle, right? Where this doesn't work. Does this not work? Nothing works. Wait, now it works. Weird. Okay, so the idea here is that if, remember, tracking and range matters, but in this case, your tracking is, oh my god. If the ship is flying directly at you, then its speed across your horizon is basically 0. It is extremely easy to track. So spiral tackling is a process in which you kind of come in at an angle, which I can teach how to do that. Actually, let's show it first. You can see it's not working. It's just not working. Hold on. Oh my god. All right. If you fly directly at the enemy ship, they can track you easily and kill you. However, if instead you come in at an angle and spiral in, then you're always traveling in as maximum of an angle as you can, and therefore it can never really track you and you can still get closer. This is what's known as spiral tackling. A really good place to practice this is actually in the Abyss. The Drifter battleship has really good optimal range and really good damage, but really bad tracking. So if you can do a spiral tackle, you can usually avoid her damage a lot more than if you try to approach her directly. Most people that die to the Drifter battleship in the Abyss do so because they do not spiral tackle. However, as the battleship in question, you can actually look at your trajectory versus their trajectory and try to match it. Now, you often, if they're orbiting you try to like directly go in their direction, you're going to constantly just be turning to try to catch up with where they are. So instead, what I like to do is I like to take a quarter rotation around, because I assume that it'll take me a quarter of their rotation to get myself in the correct direction. And so if I want to catch them, I will double click in their direction at a quarter travel around the circle, so that way I can kind of cut them off. But if I'm trying to undo a spiral tackle or just trying to hit them with my weapon systems as a battleship, what you can do is you can look at their angle versus your angle, and the closer you match that, so that way you're going alongside them instead of them going around you, the easier it is for you to hit your turret. So if you're having difficulty hitting a target that's tackling you, you can look to see where their trajectory is and try to match their angle at any given time and see whether or not you can hit them better that way. Now, missiles, unlike turrets, have no probabilistic role in their hit, so they will always do their damage based on a mathematical formula. There's no randomness whatsoever in missile systems, which, again, we'll talk about next week more in detail, but this is just follow up on what you were saying. So, like, if somebody's smaller and coming after you, theoretically speaking, missiles are pretty good because missiles will always apply at least somewhat, but it's based on their the explosion velocity versus the ship's velocity and the explosion radius versus the ship's radius. So you can see here, this ship is small, which means it only takes up a small portion of the explosion, but it's also fast, which means a portion of its radius is taken out of the circle. So this one that's bigger and slower is covering up more of the explosion's circle. So it's going to take a bigger percentage of the maximum damage of the missile system. Whereas this one is only going to take up a small percentage of the potential damage of the missile system based on how much of the ship is still covered by the explosion after the explosion radius and velocity are taken into account. All right, that's enough of that. Let's talk about Eve Galaxy Conquest. Oh, are you okay? Yeah, you're okay. Eve Galaxy Conquest. Dang it. Actually, nothing working today. All right. Eve Galaxy Conquest. We are in Season 2, of course. Last time we did play for a while and show kind of the beginning and how to have a good start in the game. But today I wanted to show off some of my fleets and what they are and how I've been finding success, especially later on. So for my first fleet, you're just playing Raid Shadow. I've been playing, I mean, I play Raid too, but I find Eve Galaxy Conquest a lot of fun. I think it's worth checking out. But, okay. So for my first fleet is Men's, Yorlis, and Dramiel. We talked about this in a previous video before, but man, I cannot say enough good things about this fleet. Let's talk a little bit about why. So it starts with the Dramiel itself, okay? The Dramiel has 3 different barrage modules. A barrage module is a module that has a chance to fire every single time the ship initiates direct fire. So once a turn, by default, the ships that are allowed to initiate direct fire, which is based on their firepower, etc., etc. That's their basic attack, right? And then each one of these things get a chance to do their thing as well, right, during its turn. But in this case, these have a chance to fire off every single time direct fire is initiated. So that means that if I can direct fire more than once a turn, these have more than one chance of going off. This final one is not a barrage module. It's a command module, which means it's always going on, or it has, yeah, with the 100% initiating chance. This is just something that's active the entire time, and you can see that this increases the chance of activating barrage modules by, 9% or so, which is only increasing all of these things' chance to go off. So like this one has a 50% chance. This one has a these basically 40%, 50%, 50%. Cool, right? Now, this one does extra damage, 170 to 100, or rather 180 or so % damage. So it's a big single target hit. This one does another single target hit, a little bit weaker. However, it has a mutaplasmid effect of a second attack that also has a 50% chance of activating, which does 150%. So already we have, and this one has a damage rate of plus 20%. So, this is nearly 200% damage. This one has two different shots, one at 175% damage, one at 115% damage. This is a 40% chance. This is a 50% chance. And this is a big critical one. This one gives them 2 chances of force shield. Force shield makes you immune to 1 attack, but still allows effects that trigger off that attack to happen. That is both good and bad, right? So this force shield will completely negate 2 attacks per activation of this EM shield charge because it stacks. So if this fires twice in a turn and this triggers twice in a turn, you can get 4 force shields, which allows you to take 4 attacks without taking any damage whatsoever, which is pretty wild, first and foremost, right? And of course, this assault formation makes it more probable. So we can already tell that the biggest thing that this ship wants, like I've already got some basic defenses, and I already got a lot of damage. What really helps this ship is if I can attack more than once, right? So I'm going to look for rapid fire, and I'm going to look for more damage with the possibility of repair would be good, but not really necessary. It's got a basic tank. It'd be better to have a little bit more tank, maybe some ability to repair, but we're relying on these different force shields to protect ourselves, okay? So our first commander, our lead commander, is going to be Men's Repola. The reason why we're going with Men's as our lead commander is, remember, we don't actually care about tactics in this case, because I'm not trying to reduce the damage via tactics. Tactics will reduce your incoming damage. It'll increase your defenses, damage reduction. I don't really care about damage reduction because I'm already reducing the damage all the way down to 0. What I care about is hitting as hard as humanly possible every single time I hit. My ship is all about damage. I want to increase that damage up. So I want the one with the highest offense possible. And you can see that Yorlis, sadly, does not have as much offense as Men's. So Men's goes into the lead position. Now, as far as his skills go, we have Deepen Damage, which has a chance to hit, chance to deal extra kinetic damage to the target after initiating direct fire. So again, this is basically like a barrage module, right? Every single time my ship does a direct fire, I have a chance of doing this deepen damage as well. And then this has a chance of inflicting neural shutdown, which will disable active modules or talents on the enemy when I do that deepen damage. So pretty cool. So that already we're starting to see we are synergizing with the Dramiel. Everything wants me to shoot multiple times and then triggers off of those shots, right? So here we go. Ready? His second ability, we could go for this, which increases the ability for these to trigger. So that way there's more chance of these abilities to trigger. We would do that if we were only able to get 1 shot per turn, or if only having 1 shot per turn is what mattered. That isn't what matters. We want 2 shots. We want 2 shots per turn so bad. So instead, we went with Tactical Overload, which gives me a 70% chance to rapid fire. So there is a 70% chance that I will shoot twice in a single turn with a 12.5% Nosferatu. Nosferatu means that I repair my wing based on the kinetic damage that I have dealt. So now I'm shooting twice per turn, 70% of the time, which is exactly what I wanted. And my attacks are healing myself by 12.5% of the damage being done. I'm turning my damage into health. Awesome. Its secondary ability is a chance to reduce armor to wings on both sides by a certain amount. I have chosen to not commit into that. Now, this is actually a good way, since I'm relying on the shields to prevent my damage. This reduction in armor, in theory, isn't that harmful because I'm not taking that much damage. A lot of the damage is being negated by the shields, but that reduction in their armor is going to help all of my hits hit better. But for now, I decided I'm going to just commit to my damage dealing stuff, maximize it, and not worry about, in the event that I do take a damage, I don't necessarily want to have a lower armor. And then finally, for my third ability, I could have theoretically gone for Explosive Charge, which does damage to all enemy wings, but instead I did this one, which is Shadow Tactics. It's really a decision of whether or not you want to go for all enemy wings or for a single target. And this one does require a debuff. Now, this is actually one of the weaknesses of my current setup, is I don't have enough debuffs being spread out for this. So I might consider switching to Explosive Charge. You may not be able to do that if you have 3 red stars, but yeah, I might actually want to try out Explosive Charge to see how that works and see if it works better. I just haven't done it because this is working really, really well. Now, this does increase its initiating chance by 25%, which brings this to being a 75% chance to deal extra kinetic damage to the target after initiating direct fire if the target has been already affected by debuffs. So I'm really relying on this neural shutdown to be put on them, right? So, and then Yorlis rounds up the fight with his high energy beam, deals kinetic damage to a single enemy wing. So this is just a standard damage dealer. But it also grants rapid fire to all your wings for 2 turns with a 25% chance. So this is actually kind of wild. These 2 abilities stack, but not directly, right? Like this is a 70% chance to hit to do rapid fire. This is a 25% chance to do rapid fire. That doesn't mean I have a 95% chance to do rapid fire because these 2 attempts roll separate. I'd have to figure out the math to figure out what the actual probability is at that point. But yeah, it attempts this rapid fire and then it attempts this rapid fire separately. But they do both attempt to activate. So even if this happens... So actually, 30% of the time, this will fail. And then a quarter of that time, this will succeed instead. So, like 80%, 85% of the time, 80% of the time, it'll succeed in doing a rapid fire. That's really good. Then Mark Shot deals 40% kinetic damage to a target after initiating direct fire. So again, I'm just getting more damage out there every single time I do a direct fire, with this increasing the chance of a high energy beam, which is the first ability. I love talents that increase the activation percentage because, of course, you know, things that don't activate don't do anything. So things with a higher activation rate are more reliable, right? So this high energy beam, which is his big strike, does 219% damage. It's the single biggest hit out of my fleet. Will now happen 11% more often. So it's actually 46% chance almost 50%. Resonant Strike, 35% chance to deal kinetic damage after initiating direct fire. So this guy also brings 2 chances to hit every single time they shoot, with this one ignoring a certain amount of armor on the target. It's the other reason why I don't really care about lowering their target. So in practice, what this means is that each time this Dramule shoots, it has a chance to hit once for the direct fire, once for the auto Gatling, twice for the dual cooling, once for assassination deepen damage, once for assassination shadow tactics, and once for mark shot, and once for resonant strike. So 7 different hits every single attack. And then on top of that, the possibility of getting 2 force shields, with a 80% chance of shooting twice in a turn, with that meaning that I could get a maximum of 14 different hits in a single round. This thing dunks things really hard. We can go into the logs. Probably. That one's too easy. Come on, there's got to be a good one. This one's going to be too low. All of these things are going to be too weak, because they just die in a single turn. Like, yeah. So in this single shot, we have the Dramule's direct fire. It does damage. Mark shot does damage. Resonant strike does damage. Deepen damage does damage. Gets neural shot down. Gains 2 force shields. Rapid fire triggers. Hits again. Mark shot hits again. Resonant strike hits again. So a total of over, what, 7,000 squads wiped out in a single turn. That's just how this dude rolls, man. This setup is so strong. Another good example. Look, again, dead in a single turn. It manages to get its hit. That's cool. Good for you. Direct fire hits. Resonant strike hits. Deepen damage hits. Shadow tactics does not activate. Auto cannon hits. Gains 2 force shields. Oh, auto cannon secondary attack hits. Oh, look, Menz's rapid fire has been triggered. It attacks again. Mark shot, resonant strike. Even though these things don't actually hit, or aren't hitting, it doesn't matter. There's so many different shots coming out. Something's going to hit and kill him. All right, so that's the Dramule. Or at least that's the Men's Yorless Dramule. Next. So, Ameline Kassora Scythe. So, in the opposite direction of that, instead of just damage, we're looking to mitigate damage and repair. Okay, that's what the Scythe is going to be really good at. So, logistics. Logistics drones. During the preparation turn, releases 1 logistics drone wing. So, this thing is a drone wing that does 2 things. 1, it will take damage. So, if the attack, if the enemy attacks a if the enemy attacks a single wing, there's a 50-50 chance that it'll just hit the drones, and that damage will basically not matter, right? In fact, you can see if the drone wing is destroyed, another wing with half the size will be released in 1 turn. So even if they completely destroy the drone wing, another wing will be released, right? So damage onto the drone wings are kind of a way of mitigating damage. So you're already seeing a 50% damage mitigation on single strike attacks just by having this thing out there. Plus, when they do activate, they repair, right? So then the secondary thing, it gives it has a basic repair on its number 2. Actually, shoot, I just realized I need to go back to the first one because we're not done here. One of the things I skipped last time is people wanted me to go into rigs and such. So let's go ahead and look at the rigs. For the Dramule, again, we are all about damage here, boys. So I went with firepower. All of the damage that we're doing is kinetic. firepower is associated with kinetic damage. So I'm looking specifically for firepower and with the stats of data rate, right? Data rate allows you to go faster. It's always good to go faster. I almost always sort when I'm looking for stuff. I'll choose the set I want, and then I'll choose data rate and pick the best one available from that selection. So the rigs are going to be firepower. For men's, right now I'm going for experience implants because I'm a dirty pay-to-winner, apparently. But men's is, like, there's lots of good options. Honestly, because he's the lead commander, I'd consider going with an offensive set. So that way you can raise your offense even further, doing more damage. Another choice would be to go with kinetic, although while offense, because he's the lead commander, offense is going to influence the entire fleet. If I go with a kinetic rig or kinetic implants, that will only impact his damage. So chances are I would go with offense if I wasn't using the EXP implants. And for Yorlis, well, for him, I currently have it going with killing pirates. But again, actually for him, because he doesn't really care about his offense doesn't matter for the fleet. What I would probably do is, since this is a huge amount of kinetic damage, all this stuff is kinetic damage, I would probably go with kinetic rigs for him if I went with something like that. But for right now, I just wanted to be able to kill pirates a lot easier. So I went with that. Now then. As I said, with the site, the logistics drone makes it so that they take half the damage or so. And also it repairs. The remote shield booster repairs 45% chance every turn. This is not a barrage module, so it'll only has a chance once per turn. This is another active module, and it does kinetic damage, so this is a damage dealer. And this receives repair amount by 16% or 17, so somewhere between 15 to 20%. So what this means is that repairs being done to the scythe is more effective, which is good because, you know, it's not like you repair commanders. So this is all repairs are increased by this amount. And that includes its 2 repairs. So its rigs are, of course, repair rigs. It's doing repairs. I want repair amount increase. So that way it can repair even better. So already we're seeing that this is a totally different strategy than the Dramiel. This is about mitigating a little bit of damage, but mostly just repairing yourself as you go. That's the ship's side of things. So what this ship really does need is, it could use a little bit of protection, but I need commanders that can come up behind it and do some damage, right? So Ameline deals kinetic damage to a single enemy wing, 90 damage, 190% at 40% chance, with short circuit at 30% chance to short circuit, which prevents the enemy from dealing damage. This is good because often the damage that's coming in is going to still be more than you can repair. So if you can get a short circuit on, that'll buy you some time to help repair your stuff. Support attack does damage to all enemy wings, so that's good if the enemy is using drones. And also does just further repairs. So now I've got even more repair coming in, right, to keep myself at full health. And then suppressing fire deals kinetic damage to all enemy wings. Look at that. 210% damage to all enemy wings. That's a big ol' hit to all wings. And it additionally reduces the target's damage by 13%. So, you know, reducing the enemy's damage is a good way to, you know, I'm mitigating damage. So I'm able to repair, and it has some pretty decent slams in her damage. So she's doing damage, she's supporting the repair, and she's lower incoming damage. Kasora reduces enemy direct fire by 61%. So now I'm repairing so much less than I was before. Now, this is only direct fire. This is not their like advanced abilities, but direct fire is the one consistent piece of damage, unless of course you know, short circuit them or something. So, you know, this is a major reduction in incoming damage. But then 50% chance to deal 6% of the damage to the target when the target has received any damage from all of your commanders. So this is why it's good that both of my commanders are damage dealers, so that way it will increase, it'll just splash on a little bit of extra damage when both of my dudes have done damage to them. System Breach reduces firepower by 22% and armor by 9% for all enemy wings by 2 turns. Once again, reducing their damage and increasing the amount of damage I can do to them. So this whole thing is about, this whole setup is about survival. This is a good alternative to the Vexor setup I showed before, and we'll show again later. But her secondary ability does energy damage to all enemy wings. Now, energy damage is different than kinetic damage, so now I've now conflicted energy damage with kinetic damage. So that's why we're not going to go with like firepower. Firepower is for energy, or sorry, firepower is for kinetic weapons. Energy on the ship is good for 2 things: repair and energy damage. So the thing is this: when you're calculating the firepower and energy, this energy here, it needs to be multiplied by the ships per squad. So this is actually what, 2800 energy, which if we look at most of the other ships in the game, you know, if we look at the Dragoon, for example, 4 times 6 is 24, which isn't as much. The Griffin, 446 times 5 is less than 2500. The Caracal, 600 times 3, so like not even 2000. So this nearly 3K by the Scythe makes it one of the higher energy ships in the game, which, spoiler, ships that are designed to repair have a high energy rate, because energy rate affects energy damage and repair amount. So this high energy is increasing the ability of my repairs, but it also increases the EM damage that is being done by this ability here, right? Which isn't much, but, you know, it is true. Then this one has 1 turn to prepare and then does energy damage to all enemy wings for 164% damage, or 160% damage or so, which just shows how big that other hit that does 200% damage to all wings is in comparison, because this requires a turn to prepare, but it's still pretty good. And it also, hey look, has repairs, so I've got even more repairs coming in. This thing is extremely difficult to die, and it does have some pretty decent damage output. Let's go ahead and look at one of these victories. So we can see that this is, 250 power versus 500 power, but I take almost no damage. And we can see in the logs here, this fight does take more than 1 turn, because it's not the Dramiel. It's not going to just blap blap it all the way away. But we do some damage here. The Scythe receives damage. The Dramiel does direct damage, but we can see that its damage bonus has been reduced by 61%, so it does very little damage comparatively. But this does full damage. But we can see that we are already seeing repairs. So we got 784 squads there, 1,000 squads there, another 1,000 squads there. Oh, no, that's the logistics drones. Yeah, so 1,000 squads plus 784 squads compared to how much damage I received. And then the next turn, more shots, more repairs, and more damage. Here's the Dramiel shooting its auto Gatling cannon, and it hits the logistics drone instead of the main setup. So that damage is basically sloughed. Here we have logistics drones doing more healing. More shield boosters. There's that the logistics drones getting healed, along with the Scythe. And then finally, of course, finishing off with an Ameline lightning bolt. All right, next. I bet you people are going to get this one wrong. Pomic and Kamul. Now, I have them in an Oracle. You could actually just as easily, in fact, the Dragoon is also good. You get the Dragoon for $1. You also get the Dragoon for beating, like you get points towards the Dragoon for beating the game. So in another season, there are other choices to go with here, but this is kind of the pay to win early option, right? Now, the one that everyone suggests is Dragoon, Pomik, and Kamul. But let's go ahead and look as to why I chose this instead. The Dragoon comes with a drone, right? So it has all of the advantages of a drone, but instead of a logistics drone, it's a combat drone. Next, it has a pulse laser, which does kinetic damage. After it's a barrage weapon. So here's the interesting thing, okay? Actually, I don't think this is true. It might be true. So I don't know whether or not barrage weapons will trigger off of the combat drone's direct fire or not. I know that's true for like commanders, but it's not. I don't know if it's true for the ship itself. We'll have to look at the logs. But this thing does neural shutdown, which disables active modules and talents. And, yeah. The Annihilation Beam is another barrage module that does a bunch of damage. And if the target fleet has lost more than 50% of ship squads, deals extra damage. And then finally, the Weakness Scanner increases the critical chance by 25 or so percent. And then it actually increases it further by 10% with Mutaplasmid. So 30% additional crit rate. For this, I went with Pirate, just because I'm killing a bunch of pirates right now. Later on, I'd probably go with either Kinetic or Firepower or something along those lines. There's a few options for this one. But for now, because it doesn't really matter too much, I just went with Pirate Suppression. Pomik, he's going to be by and large support, right? So this thing does a lot of damage, but unlike the Dragoon or the Dramiel, this thing doesn't have any sort of defensive systems, right? So I need to keep this thing alive. Now, if it gets low, then it'll do more stuff, but even then I need to like keep it alive as long as possible, even if it does go low. So here we have Commander Pomik, whose first ability does automated repair. Automated repair is ridiculously good. It means that there is a chance every single time you take a hit that you have a chance to automatically repair. And that repair can be stronger than the hit that triggered it, which is what makes, in my opinion, automated repair one of the strongest repairs in the whole game. Also, it increases armor by 10 for 2 turns. His support attack, which I went with straight down the left column. His support attack, after initiating an active skill, there's a 40% chance of another commander of yours to deal kinetic damage to an enemy wing. This is actually a big piece of the secret where I'm trying to just get a lot of attacks off, right? So here, he's getting my other commander to make a hit as well whenever an active skill is triggered. And that includes this one and this one. And it also increases my damage rate by a bunch. This is the damage rate of this attack, though, right? So I get a total of like 120, 130% damage as kind of a extra attack. Whenever I activate an active skill, there's a 40% chance of happening it. So then, here's the big hit. Here's the big one. 1 turn to prepare, then reduces the enemy of all enemy fleets by 13 and deals 320% kinetic damage. Just a big ol' slam on all enemy wings. This is going to be a primary damage dealer of mine. I probably want to level it up more. And then this increases the damage rate by even more. I've only put 1 point into there because that first point is a huge difference. And then after that, it's only 20%, where this is also... Actually, I should probably put more points into this soon. But there you go. So he's got his big hit. He's got his ally attack hit, and he's got his repair, right? So let's go to Kamul. Kamul also has an ally attack. Your commander and another commander deal kinetic damage to an enemy wing together. So both of your dudes attack with this one. And this increases the damage rate. Her second attack needs 1 turn to prepare and then does a huge amount of damage. 514%, 491, 500% damage rate on a single target. That's an amazing amount of damage. Even with 1 turn to prepare, 40% chance to activate. And there's a 50% chance to grant your wings with 2 stacks of force shield for 2 turns when she does this activation. So 40% chance, and these 2 force shields help her get to that second turn, right? And remember, those force shields are going to block all damage for 2 strikes. So I've got the repair coming from the other guy, and now I've actually got some real tank in the form of these force shields. This is a big reason. This ability right here is one of the biggest reasons why Kamul wins. And then finally, she increases the firepower by 18% and data rate by 12% of, I'm assuming, the ship. Because she doesn't have a firepower. She has an offense. And then this additionally increases armor by a certain amount. So she's increasing the data rate. She's just increasing the stats on top of that, making it better. If we compare that to Ketsti, Ketsti has a quick response and excellent hit, which means you'll go first and you'll strike through force shields. This is incredibly strong, but incredibly situational, right? If you're already going to go first, then quick response doesn't matter. If both of you guys are going to take a turn, then quick response might not matter. If the enemy isn't using force shields, then excellent hit doesn't matter, right? And then in addition to that, your commander's damage by a certain amount, influenced by data rate, deals kinetic damage to all enemy wings. But look at this, 88%. Now, granted, I can level this up a little bit more, but it's not. I'm not going to level it up from 90% to 500% like Kamul gets. And then a chance to inflict reactor failure. That is also really good if I wanted to go with that damage mitigation. This one is 200% damage to a single enemy, reduces armor. This one deals kinetic damage to all enemy wings, 173%. Again, good, but not as good as we saw in Kamul at maximum level. And if the target is ECM or neural shutdown, there's a 100% chance of reactor failure. So again, like if you want to do mitigation, if you want to do reactor failure, if you want to strike through shields and all that stuff, Ketsti is really good. And actually the Ketsti is really good in another comp. But in this specific setup with the Dragoon, in almost every situation, Kamul will outperform Ketsti. Okay? Now, for my more experimental setup, I just got my Thunderchild. So I'm going with Thunderchild Vepis Santamona. The Thunderchild deals energy damage to all enemy wings and EM Storm. Shield Hardener makes it so that it increases my armor by a certain amount every single time I receive damage, and it's stackable up to 5 times. This does energy damage to 1 to 2 enemy targets whenever the enemy wing is affected by damage over time. And increases your lead commander's kinetic damage by 4.2% at the start of each turn. This effect is stackable. So I want a lead commander that can do a lot of kinetic damage, and I want damage over time. Unfortunately, I do have this to give me damage over time, but I don't really have the best damage over time. That's why this setup isn't the best I could think of, but it is, or isn't the best of it, like, possible. Kelm is an amazing, amazing pilot for this setup. I don't have him. So instead, I went with Vepis. Vepis is traditionally seen with the Dragoon, or the Dramiel. I don't like him as much with the Dramiel because his shields step on the Dramiel's shields. This gives him 1 chance for a Force Shield every turn. And then whenever the Force Shield prevents damage, it does a counterattack doing kinetic damage with the highest offensive commander, which it's not going to be too surprising that Vepis is the higher offensive commander. Force Shield Amplifier has a chance for 1 extra turn whenever we get a Force Shield. This isn't as good as you think because it's only his extra turn, but it's designed to make it so that he can do this counterattack when he does that. But it also reduces received kinetic damage by a certain amount when all Force Shields are depleted. So this is just more defensive capabilities on top of his attack. And then once I get him high enough level... Oh, he's not level 20 yet. That's why. Then I would unlock this one to give him kinetic damage to a single enemy wing and increases your damage by 70% for every stack of Force Shield your ship has. So that's coming from... I mean, that isn't going to be as... This isn't as optimal as I would like because, like, you're only going to have 1 Force Shield likely. It might be worth... I don't think this has barrage modules, does it? Is this barrage? Active, passive, passive, passive. No. So, not the best place for him, but he works in this situation. How about that? And then Santa Mona just brings a bunch of repair. Effectively, I'm more or less relying on Vepis to do some damage and provide some protection, Santa Mona to do her repairs, and the Thunder Child itself does most of the damage. This is why this is an experimental fleet. I'm not 100% married to this one yet. But I've been playing around with it. Finally, I have Victor, Phallic, and well, that's the guys that I usually put in the Dragoon, but you can also put them in the Oracle. Victor repairs and deals kinetic damage. He does a converging attack, which is damage over time. And increases damage if you're engaging with grid defenders. And then another damage and neural shutdown. So just a pretty standard damage dealer with some repair. And then I usually pair him with Phallic. Phallic is still considered to be one of the strongest commanders in the whole game. Baptism, he gives a bunch of his stats to the other commander. So he wants to be the secondary commander. And he hands a bunch of his attributes to the main commander, thereby increasing the offensive and tactics for the fleet. This repairs every on the 3rd turn and on the 5th turn. Oh, sorry, from the 3rd turn to the 5th turn. So it allows you to take some damage and then builds you back up over time. Assault gives you quick response on your commander for the 3rd and 5th turn. And here's a big one. His ability to increase the active skills by 5.8%, right? And then Divine Grace increases offense by a huge amount after dealing kinetic damage for commanders that were affected by baptism. This one increases tactics for dealing damage, energy damage. But the problem is that, you know, we know he's paired with this guy and he does, that does kinetic. This does nothing. That does kinetic. This does kinetic. That doesn't do damage. So this guy never does energy damage, which is why I didn't take any points into Phallic's secondary thing. If you pair him with Jamil, obviously you would boost up that ability, right? Okay. And that is it for this account. I do want to show off... I don't have nearly as good of setups on this other one, but I've got I do have a couple of good ones on 33, which we'll get to. But for here, I just wanted to show off this guy is just as good when it comes to the Dramiel, Vepis, and Mens. I've been very successful with this as well. It's basically the same theory as before. For this one, I went with the Maelstrom with Karth and Anvent. It's working out pretty well. I didn't have a really good, solid secondary commander. I really wanted to go with Karth and Maelstrom, mostly because it has a really strong barrage module, but it has a low initiating chance, right? These initiating chances aren't the highest thing in the world, and I want them to go off. So here we have increasing the initiating chance of counterattacks by 16%. And increases damage dealt by barrage modules by 24%. So that's this thing. And whenever your wings receive damage from direct fire, you have a chance to unleash a counterattack. Direct fire, which can it trigger barrage modules. So more chances for direct fire, which has the chance to trigger the barrage module. I feel like I did something wrong here. Oh my god, I did. So I'm honestly wanting to swap him from this setup over to here. Oh, I don't have 2 red stars on him. That's why. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, this increase in barrage modules would be huge for that because the ship has obviously the really highly effective but low chance barrage modules. Where Anvent does disruptive signal resistance to prevent me from being CC'd. It gives me Nosferatu for some repair, kinetic damage to all wings, more repair, more damage, huge damage, another huge damage dealer. Why do epics have the hugest damage? And a chance to inflict repair disabled. This setup uses firepower rigs and I guess I wanted to take less damage, so I went with tactics. Yeah, he doesn't actually make any attacks himself, so that's why I went with tactics, I think. Whereas he does not have implants because I'm too lazy. And then basically the same setup as before, but I brought in Pomnic for repair because I didn't have the other one. Let's hop over to 33 and I can show you two more setups and then we'll be done. All right. So 2 of my favorite setups. Well, first of all, I want to show off this one. Instead of doing the normal Santa Mona, whatever, Santa Mona and gear, I went with Foratan and Viola to try to get some damage out of the setup with Viola because I didn't have a Tristan setup. But the big ones I wanted to show you is this is the one that I don't think enough people are talking about. All right, Mentis Black and Serb in a Catalyst. The Catalyst, it's one does a direct fire, or it does a hit with a burn. It's 2 is kinetic damage with corrosion. It's 3 does reduces enemy firepower and data rate, and it's 4 increases the activation of all active modules and talents by 5% and damage by 10%. So it's increasing all active modules and talents by 5%. Hold on. Oh gosh. So if we look at Black, we can see he puts a mark on the enemy and increases received kinetic damage, or he places decoder error if they are Galente. Oh no, sorry, if they're not Galente. And it has an increased initiation chance. This is his big one, right? His 2 red stars. Inflict dust trap on all your wings for 2 turns. When your wings receive damage, you have a chance to inflict particle dust on an enemy wing. And it's stackable. This thing is fucking crazy, guys. Every single time you get hit, there's a chance to add another stack of particle dust on them, with an increased damage rate, too. And then Conspiracy Unveiled removes all buffs from all enemies and then adds a short circuit on them. We can look at this. What's his rigs? Tenacity. Or tactics, rather. I think that matches... Yeah, damage influenced by tactics. So... if we go to the damage... if we go to a fight with him... Oh, I was defeated. Let's see if I got any good damage on it, though. We go to turn, like, 3, for example. No! Maybe not. Hmm. Nah. Can I find a good one? Dang it, no. Wait. Nope, that wasn't right. Oh, 670. Wait, 672, not 672K. Bah. Been a while since I did a good fight. I should have saved a... Wait, hold on. I might have saved a fight. Did I... Yeah! Maybe? Yeah, you can see here. So the caracal takes a turn, and then suddenly it takes burn, particle dust, particle dust, particle dust. And this is just an example of the kind of thing that it does. So, you know, all you do is stack a bunch of dots on the opponent, so they all just kind of explode as soon as they take a turn. That's that setup. And of course, the setup that a lot of people like, I went with Jamil, Faust, Omen. And the reason why is because Jamil and the Omen both have a lot of abilities that need one turn to prepare. And Faust has this thing that gives you 13% chance, well, up to, sorry, 27% chance of when you initiate something that should take one turn to prepare, it skips the preparation phase. So that helps both Jamil and the Omen, which both have lots of things that require one turn to prepare. And that's about it for my various setups. Let me know what you guys think. Did I miss something? Is there a setup that is better than what I've talked about? But I think that about covers it for today. And with everything else going wrong, I think I might wrap things up for the day. So hopefully there'll be more stuff going on next week that we can cover. But either way, I will be back to discuss more. We still have a weapons guide to make and other things. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to get the latest of my videos, or check out the Discord in order to hang out with us, etc., etc. Come join us if you want to help maximize player engagement with EVE Online. But without further ado, I've been Asherothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put EVE into context from you, my fellow Empyreans. Thank you guys so much for coming. I apologize for today being kind of wonky, but thanks for sticking through it. If you have, you're one of my favorites. Comment down below. comment like unironically. This isn't even for engagement. If you're hearing this, please comment down below and just be like, I was here or something. That way I know that you're the kind of person that stays to the very end, and I love you. And I would like, thank you so much. Well, all that said, I've been Asherathi, the voice of New Eden. Until next time, I'll see you in space.
Bring on the wrecking machine. Every city you burn, I'm gonna build high. Bring on the wrecking machine, setting your dreams of heaven on fire. Bring on the wrecking machine. Bring on the wrecking machine. Bring on the wrecking machine. Gonna ignite your every desire. Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city you burn, let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. For every city